What I'm going to talk about tonight is something that's been very heavily on my mind probably for the last 3 years, but I've never really gone into it in gory detail. And that is right now, and I'm not going to use the term people of color because I think that term is problematic, but I'm going to say black trans men are in a very interesting situation in society in the United States. Why? Number one, I am a pro-black trans man, and I have yet to really find anybody on that bandwagon. I've got most of my pro-black brothers and sisters all screaming, why in the heck would you want to be part of the LGBT that does not care about black people? And on the other hand, the LGBT does not care about black people either. So we're getting it from all sides where we're put in a position of being isolated, and then there is division within the LGBT, all those different labels, and then within the transgender community, there is division. Trans men there's somewhat of a very strange kind of sexism going on towards us, maybe even against us, whereby, I remember when I was growing up, I remember men telling me, my family telling me I was to be seen and not heard. And even after transitioning to male as a trans man, that sense of people wanting me to be seen and not heard is still very much present. Whenever I do speak up, whenever I am my natural self, which is very dominant, assertive, aggressive, whatever names you want to put on male, on the male gender, I pretty much get smacked down for doing so. So it's creating some kind of a weird umbrella effect whereby I really don't have a community. Even though I am part of the LGBT is not part of me. And what does that actually mean? I've watched a group of women called Nubian Queen who have their own website and their own network, and they're actually YouTube content creators, where they are beginning to bring up the topic of why would the LGBT black community not be involved in them when they talk a lot of trash about us, just like Christian-based black people do. Christianity was the only thing we were allowed to practice when we were brought to this country to be slaves. And that Christianity as a religion or as a practice has been carried on for over 400 years. And of all the religions in the world, that one is probably the most anti-LGBT of all of them. So while they're kicking us out of their family, they're kicking us out of the community, they're kicking us all over the place with violence, with murder, with silencing our voices and telling other people that there's something wrong with us, they still want us to be a part of that movement. The BLM movements in the United States, the HBCUs around the United States, all of them have this very strict anti-LGBT policy, which isn't even a policy. It's just something that people do. And then they wonder why we don't want to become a part of them. So you've got that on the one side, which probably hurts me more deeply, bothers me more deeply than being unattached to the LGBT, because those are my people. We all have the same struggle, no matter what our sexual identity is, no matter what our gender expression is. We're all suffering under oppression. And if we are to unite, Roland Martin said, not Roland Martin, I'm sorry, a guy named Miguel. I forgot his last name, but he's an actor that played in the movie. What was that movie? Well, one of the characters was Eddie Murphy, who played Ray Gibson. Life. It was Life. He has joined Nubian Queens. And last night he was talking about the character of Empire. I'm absolutely horrendous with names. Everybody knows that. I've said it before. The actor that played the gay man in the movie Life has joined the Nubian Queen network. And when he brought up what happened to the black gay actor of Empire, I mean, the comments, the people in the comments were saying faggot this, and oh, they were throwing all sorts of slurs, and Miguel was trying to get them to calm down, and I was sitting there observing. They don't know that I'm in that group pushing for inclusion of LGBT in the black community. They don't know that I'm there trying to do that. But I am, because that I identify more being black than I identify with LGBT. So on the LGBT side, we're also in a state of oppression because that side is complicitly ignoring the plight and the struggles of the black LGBT. There's some press that they do sit around, but there is no outrage when our black transgender women are getting murdered. 99% of the murders that happen every year about transgender people are black women, black transgender women. And then you've got us, the trans men, who are the invisible men that people don't know. If we present as male, they do not know that we're trans male. So we're in this really weird spot where we don't get the publicity that black transgender women get, that the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual white people get. We don't get that kind of press. And although I'm a stand for doing something about it, it's going to take, I don't know what it's going to take, but it's going to take probably a group of us to be able to get it together enough to get the attention of the media, or create our own media, which is probably more likely than it is to rely on a nation of racists to promote our narratives, to promote our stories, to listen to what has happened. My life is full of atrocities and inequities and injustices. Even as we speak, the VA is fighting against me, and they will not say why. It could be that I'm black. It could be that I'm transgender. They know both at the VA, Veterans Affairs. So, but they do everything behind smoke and mirrors now, which is what happened after the civil rights movement ended. Racism became rather subverted. They found different ways of expressing racism without using the N-word, without being, it's covert more than it is out in the open. They do everything behind closed doors, but the message comes across that we're not desired in this nation. A lot of you know that I am the son of Bob Gibson, and there was a very, very large media outlet called the Daily Beast that started to do an article about me, and all of a sudden they stopped after I'd interviewed with them. And the editor of the Daily Beast took over and made up an excuse why they would not publish that article about me, which would have gotten me on to the national stage in America. I'm not going to say where I found them, but that the woman that interviewed me was a transgender white woman, and the editor was a cisgender white man. And they just dumped me like a hot potato and tried to go after my father. They wanted to know his take on me being a trans man, and my father doesn't have a take on me being a trans man. I'm a 61-year-old man. I don't have to ask my dad permission to be anything. But this society and the way that they were coming across was as though they wanted to seek his permission to put out my story, when my dad wanted them to get my permission to put out my story. It wasn't about him. But that is the kind of covert racism combined with covert racism inside of being transgender that happened. And that was last year. So that's just one example. And I've got a flood of examples like this throughout my life, that we're under constant scrutiny, where we have to do everything better without the money on the other side and without the support of the LGBT. I belong to a lot of organizations, and all they do is let me hang around, but they're not really supportive of any of my causes, including being pro-black. It's almost like they're afraid of it, but they won't say so out loud. It's all very, very covert. But the money that's being thrown around this country for causes, none of them are for the Black cause. So it's going to be very interesting how I will be able to, how God will be on my side to bring this all to the forefront. Even though 45 is causing quite a stir in this country, he's causing people to sort of kind of wake up. But I can also see in parallel that people will remain complicit, they will remain asleep, they will remain afraid, they'll just try to lay real low while all of this storm is going on right now, instead of creating our own storm to push back against the injustices in all of these marginalized societies in the United States. And we've got to do it without the resources of everybody else. So it's going to take a very special person or a very special cause to tackle this, to take this head on. And God tapped me on the shoulder and said that I was going to be one of those leaders, and I will be creating an organization. I will be creating a project to bring in other leaders to put our heads together and just let's take this on, folks. So with that, I want everybody to have a wonderful Super Bowl weekend. Yes, it's the weekend of the Super Bowl. I love football. I have not watched it all year because of the nonsense of white owners in the National Football League telling our football players to shut up and play. I don't like that. It is what it is right now. So everybody have a blessed evening. Paul here.